All right, people. Review of the week time. So, a lot of fights to talk about. Actually, quite a lot of fights to talk about between the card that was on last night, the Zone show, and the well. Here's the thing. In fact, actually, why don't we start with Dillian Whyte's comeback? Okay, now Dillian Whyte made his return to the ring after well over a year. Uh, well, today, Sunday, time of recording this. In fact, the fight would have ended probably less than an hour ago. So, he made his return to the ring against Christian Hammer in Castlebar in a hotel. And yeah, look, it's a slightly bigger York Hall, is the best way to describe it. It's about 2,000 there, roughly thereabouts. His previous fight was in the OVO. Prior to that, it was Wembley Stadium, and he had been headlining pay-per-views prior to that. This show it wasn't even streamed on YouTube. They couldn't even get someone to stream it. So I can't do a post-fight review if there's no footage of the fight to review. I can't gauge what his performance is like because I didn't see it, and very few did. Judging by what I seen from some of the people who were reporting on it on Twitter, it was kind of a bizarre stoppage because Dillian Whyte stopped Christian Hammer after 3 rounds. Corner pulled him out, but like by all accounts, he wasn't in any serious trouble. It was really just kind of going through the motions and sort of stuff like that. So yeah, a strange performance. If I can get footage of it, because I've seen people say that there was video cameras, as in not like iPhones or like actual cameras. And they have done that in Ireland a few times where they have had small hall shows where they've had like one angle. So you can't really, you're not going to change the angle, but they have recorded certain fights. No commentary or anything like that, but you can at least have a look and say, okay, I can get a gauge of what's going on. So maybe if one of them comes out in the next day, I'll do a post fight on Dillian Whyte, Christian Hammer. If it doesn't, again, I'm not going to comment on something I haven't seen. So I don't know how Dillian Whyte looked. All I can go on is the reports I seen online that said, it was he was in control, but it wasn't at it to write home about. And then inexplicably they pulled Christian Hammer out after 3 rounds. Now, this was on about 10 days notice for both guys, so I can't imagine either guy. Dillian Whyte was about 256, which is kind of I've seen him come in worse shape, so it's kind of in around his shape. So that was that. Again, I can't really comment on the rest of the card because, again, didn't see it. So I can't comment on the other fights who were on the card, didn't see it. So we will. If I can get, as I said, footage, I might do a little run through the card and have a talk through it if I can see any of the fights that were on it. In terms of the Magnificent Seven show, I absolutely did see that. It was very good. I enjoyed it. Again, Frank Warren, when he gets it right, does he ever get it right? And I did enjoy this Magnificent Seven show. I started off watching Pierce O'Leary, and boy, was that some left hook. Now, I missed the first couple of rounds. I only really came into it in, I think, round 7, where they had it, Pierce O'Leary ahead, but it was competitive. Knocked Martirosyan out, not Vanis Martirosyan, a different one, out with a left hook, big shot. Pierce O'Leary definitely can punch a bit. 14 wins, 8 knockouts. Pierce O'Leary is from Dublin. Not sure whereabouts in Dublin he's from, but he is a dub. And yeah, he calls himself the Big Bang. He certainly did a big bang last night. It was a big left hook. Ethan James versus Owen Cooper. I'm surprised it went 9 rounds after the first round because Owen Cooper absolutely floored. This was a really good fight as well, by the way. He absolutely floored Ethan Cooper with a left hook in the first round. And had it not been for James spitting his mouthpiece out, I doubt he would have seen the end of the round. Now, he did. Now, one of the judges, I think, had it pretty close at the time of the stoppage. The corner pulled him out going into the 10th round. He had a very bad 9th round and no real issue with the stoppage. So, yeah, both guys, they knew each other from the amateurs. They're both undefeated. Owen Cooper, who's not 4 knockouts in 10 wins, doesn't scream to me that he's got massive punching power. But James has never had a stoppage win in any of his 12 wins. So he couldn't even tickle Owen Cooper in there. So that was a good performance, a good fight. We saw Dennis McCann, Brad Strand, workmanlike performance by McCann, did what he needed to do. Had Brad Strand down in the second round. So good performance by him. I'd like to see him in there against Belute again. I think that is a fight that they need to run back. So let's see what they do with that. Zach Parker versus Tyrone Zoiga. Oh boy. Where do we start with this one? Parker, right. He is a super middleweight. This was on BoxRec. It says this was a super middleweight fight. Zoinga weighed in 173 and Parker 169. This was light heavyweight, not super middleweight. But it was a non-title fight, so you can kind of come in a little bit heavy. Yeah, Zoing didn't look in particularly good shape. He looked very soft, but he looked dangerous early on. He actually put Zach Parker down with a good shot in round 2. Parker was able to come back into it, but in the 9th round, he appeared to hurt his ankle, I believe it was, because he seemed to... It was almost like he slipped. However way he slipped, maybe he had a pre-existing injury, I don't know, and just aggravated it. But in the last round, he gave it away because he really couldn't put any weight down on that ankle. And Tyrone Zoinga, he was done himself in terms of he was fatigued by then, so he couldn't really capitalise. Parker was talking about fighting Anthony Yarde at 175. Yeah, that's all I got to say on that. So, Liam Davis versus Eric Robles. Great knockout by Liam Davis. Absolutely lethal, a big uppercut. The referee really should have stopped it. You know, who was refereeing the fight? It doesn't say here on BoxRec. But whoever referee was, I forget who it was, I would have stopped it had I been in his... It's easy to say, but he was out of it, Eric Robles, from that uppercut, and then he was down from that shot. So... got back up. Liam Davis finished the job off. Great performance by Liam Davis. Looking really, really, really good. Nathan Heaney, Brad Pauls, a very, very entertaining fight. A draw. A fight that really could have had it go either way. I'd quite like to see it ran back again. But absolutely, it was fun. The thing was, this was on after midnight, because as some of these shows tend to do, went on a little bit long. But it was worth waiting to see that main event. Brilliant scrap, brilliant fight by both guys. Nathan Heaney, still British champion. 2,500 tickets he sold. That's a promoter's dream. Now, I know I'm not doing it in sequential order to how the fights were on the card. Joe Joyce was not the main event, but I'll talk about him last, because I feel as though we need to really have a talk about his performance. And I didn't think it was a good performance in the slightest. I thought that he looked slower. Now, Joe Joyce is a slow heavyweight. He's not particularly quick in there. He's not Pernell Whitaker in terms of defense. But he looked slower. He looked even like defensively, like he's still getting hit with that overhand right. Still not being able to adjust. That's just not good enough. And especially if you are... Like, Cash Ali is English level. English level is fair to say. And Cash Ali was able to land that right hand plenty. He faded down the stretch, mainly from the work Joe Joyce was doing with the Cash Ali's body and probably not being in the best condition. But Joe Joyce, the juggernaut that we're used to seeing, it just was not there. Now, as I said, I heard rumours that he was not setting the world alight in training camp. Came in 286 pounds. So how much training did he actually do? I think that Joe Joyce, if he is to have a run, there's a lot of things he needs to fix. He needs to come in, like, he needs to lose about 20 pounds. He needs to find that old form. He needs to improve that defense. But these are all things that we've known for a while about Joe Joyce. But he's still not done them yet. And he's now 38 years old. He's pushing 40. So I'd say he's too long in the tooth to change it. If he gets a big fight, whether it be against a Daniel Dubois, a Filip Hrgovic, even Deontay Wilder, I'd be making them all favourite over Joe Joyce. Dillian Whyte fought tonight. If they fought, that would be a competitive fight. I probably would favour Joe Joyce, depending on how Dillian Whyte looked in his fight. I probably might favour Joe Joyce in that fight. But yeah, in terms of the performance as a whole, I didn't think Joe Joyce set the world alight. I really didn't. I thought that it looked poor, to say the least. That was my assessment of Joe Joyce. In terms of the card, the Magnificent Seven, I thought it was very good. The first Magnificent Seven was very good. This one was no different. It was very good. I enjoyed it. It was some good fights, good competitive fights. So Warren, I think he's onto a winner with these shows. I really do. These matches are very, very good. They're very fun to watch, and there's great fights on the card. So my hat off to Frank Warren. He put on a very, very good show. In terms of the I thought it was very good. As the last one was, the first Magnificent Seven was very good. This one was no different. It was very good. I enjoyed it. It was some good fights, good competitive fights. So Warren, I think he's onto a winner with these shows. I really do. These Magnificent Sevens are, they are very, very good. They're very fun to watch, and there's great fights on the card. So my hat off to Frank Warren. He put on a very, very good show. In terms of the zone show, I only seen William Zepeda versus Maxi Hughes. Well, actually, before I talk about that, I want to touch on Richard Towers, because a few people were asking me, a few people, I've actually got a few DMs about it, were asking me my opinion on Richard Towers. Reading the riot act to Cash Ali, and the commentators at ringside were more so Darren Fletcher. He was a little bit taken aback by some of the things that Richard Towers was saying. And listen, I've heard worse. I've heard trainers really give the riot act. I've seen trainers actually, in Ireland, I've actually seen trainers actually slap their fighter in between rounds. And at the end of the day, they're both going in there and they're trying to incapacitate their opponent. So if there's a few expletives being said, who gives a damn? That's the least of your worries when you have two guys going in there trying to incapacitate the other, and you're getting, up in your bonnet about, oh, he said this. So they're grown adults, for God's sakes. Cash Ali is in his mid-30s, Richard Towers is in his 40s. They're adults. It's not kids in the playground. So that's my thoughts on that. In terms of the DAZN main event, which was William Zepeda versus Maxi Hughes, yeah, the first round gave you a bit of a false dawn about how this fight was going to go, because Maxi Hughes for the first minute and a half looked quite good, catching and countering, doing what he needed to do. Looked good, looked really good, looked sharp. William Zepeda didn't put his foot on the gas. And when I say he didn't put his foot on the gas, he threw about 50, 60 punches thereabouts in the first round. It's not a bad punch output for the first round, but by his standards, and he does have, this guy, in round 3, he threw 153 punches, which is insane. Honestly, this guy's engine is crazy. Maxi Hughes, there was nothing he could really do. He couldn't keep this guy off him. He couldn't fight him punch for punch. He just didn't have that engine. And he wore him down very, very quickly. He really did. And ultimately, he was able to take Maxi Hughes out in 4 rounds. I was going to say one-sided rounds. It was only really rounds 2, 3, and 4 at once. The first round was competitive. But yeah, Corner did the right thing, pulling Maxi Hughes out. As for what both guys do here, Shakur Stevenson versus William Zepeda, I'm all for it. Honestly, I am all for that. I seen someone tweet on Twitter, and I haven't actually verified this, but if this is the case, holy something. Apparently, both William Zepeda and Subriel Matias are trained by the same guy. Could you imagine the output of punches? Could you imagine the spars? Could you imagine those two fighting? The punch output between the two. That would be insanity. Absolute insanity. I'd love to see him against Shakur Stevenson, quite frankly. I think it'd be a very entertaining fight. Shakur said he'd welcome a potential fight, impressed with the win. Yeah, look, go for it. I'd be all for seeing that. I think it will be entertaining. Shakur Stevenson has reached out to Devin Haney's father and trainer Bill Haney and told him that he would be willing to jump in on April the 20th if Ryan Garcia can't. Now, this is stemming from Ryan Garcia. I'm going to do a separate video on it because it's it's a video in of itself. It really is. The New York State Athletic Commission, or New York State Commission, I should say, Ryan Garcia is threatening to sue them because they want a mental health evaluation from him for his fight with Devin Haney on April the 20th after seeing his recent social media posts. And quite frankly, I genuinely can't blame them, because a lot of them have been pretty out there. I'll talk about it in a separate video, but yeah, Ryan Garcia, he is, if he is trolling, because some people are saying he's trolling, if he is, then this is something else. But if it's not, yeah, we definitely need to, I read, questions need to be asked, I'll put it like that. I'll do all that in a separate video. We can talk about that separately. In terms of some of the other news that happened in the week, Josh Taylor, Jack Catterall now on May the 25th in Leeds as opposed to April the 27th. That show will still go ahead. It's now moved to Liverpool. It's going to be headlined by Peter McGrail. He's going to be rematching Jay Quinn, I think is how the guy's name. I don't have his name in front, but something like that. The guy who knocked him out on the undercard of Bam versus Sonny. Great knockout. Peter McGrail really should be winning that fight. He really should. He was in complete control. Will there be... See, I don't normally like, this is something that I don't like regardless of the promoter. I don't normally like guys going in there with a guy who's knocked you out badly. Even if you were in control in the fight, normally you'd want to give him a couple of rehabilitation fights before going straight back in there with the guy who knocked you out. Now, sometimes it can work. But if you look at a lot of the occasions where it hasn't worked, you're like, oh, you went straight back in there? That's not a good idea. David Price, Tony Thompson is a prime example. He unraveled very quickly in the second fight, because he went longer in the second fight, but he unraveled in a different way. It was more mental in the second fight with Price than it was physical in the first fight. But you do worry about that, and I would. Peter McGrail should win, but it's a worry. Now, Mauricio Sulaiman, in his infinite wisdom, has declared that he wants to trial a new judging system with 6 judges. Okay, now you want to trial that, being the operative word there. Where would you think to trial it? Would you trial it on a small hall show somewhere in Minneapolis, where there's a 8-10 rounder with a little WBC cricket title on the line against, fighter A and fighter B, where we can see trial and error. If it works, happy days. If it doesn't, we could really get a gauge of it. Is that where you want to do the trial? No. He wants to do it on the. He wants to do it on. I was going to say undercard. He wants to do it on the actual fight. Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk. No. You don't trial something on a fight of that magnitude. That's completely ridiculous. That's a completely stupid thing to do. If you want to trial something, look, I'm not against maybe bringing in more judges or something. I do think we need to do something. We need to do something to fix these decisions, to fix these dodgy scorecards. And for me, I think that maybe giving the judges a monitor, it wouldn't cost an absolute bomb. It would cost a lot less than having 6 judges, quite frankly. And also, I think that maybe having the judge explain the scorecard won't cost you anything at all, would be a better idea. They're just 2 things, because it's going to save you money, because you're going to have to pay an extra 3 judges. If you have a TV, you're only paying for a couple of monitors, or if you're getting to explain, even if it's a unanimous 121-08, explain your thinking, it could take 15-20 minutes. That would probably, because that would give them more of an inference to really actually look at it and say, oh crap, I'm going to be grilled on this scorecard. I better make sure that I miss nothing. Because if you think about it in a job, right? If you're doing a really important job and you meet with, say, the managing director, yeah, you've done this. Could you explain why you've done this? Could you explain why this has happened? X, Y, and Z. Blah 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 blah. It's not going to be a case of well, we've just lost X amount of million. That was in your department. Yeah, see you tomorrow. They're not going to do that. They're gonna ask you questions, and I think it should be the same for judging. If they're getting paid to do it, explain it, regardless whether it's good or regardless whether it's a unanimous 121-08 across the board. Everyone thinks it. Explain it. Because I think that would mean then they would properly look and say, okay, let's have a proper good look at this fight and see and make sure that there's nothing the commission can hit me over the head for, basically, to say, oh, well, you're not watching this, well, you're not doing this. So that's what I got to say on that. Eddie Hearn has stated that no decision on Joshua's next fight, that there will be no decision on Joshua's next fight until after Fury versus Usyk on May the 8th. Hearn remains hopeful that His Excellence Turki Al-Sheikh will make Joshua versus Fury, if Fury wins, vacate the IBF world title shot versus Filip Hrgovic. Also, also possible for AJ if the Fury Usyk rematch happens, I should say. So, yeah, because obviously we've been hearing a lot, and I'm Fury versus Joshua, Fury versus Joshua, Fury versus Joshua. Right, that I've said it once, I'll say it again. That's a fight that's always going to be there. Right? It's always going to be there, win or lose, regardless. But for the time being, focus on Focus on Fury versus Usyk. That's the fight that's happening come what may. And that has all the titles on the line. That has the biggest stakes. If Joshua, Eddie Hearn is saying there, they'll wait. Now, I'd like to see Joshua stay active, and I would love to see him in there against a top 10 heavyweight, the likes of Hrgovic, Parker, etc. So we're going to have a wait now to see who they announce his next opponent will be. As I said, I expect if Usyk wins and the Fury rematch happens, I wouldn't be shocked if we see Joshua versus Hrgovic for the vacant title. I wouldn't be shocked. And as I said, the way Hrgovic has been looking lately, I think I think he will win, but it's going to be interesting to see how Hrgovic takes Joshua's power, because I'm telling you now, Hrgovic has a chin on him. He definitely has a chin. I mean, Zhilei Zhang is a massive puncher. Ask Joseph Parker, Joe Joyce, etc. Yes, he was down, shouldn't have been a knockdown, and he took the rest of the shots. I don't want to say no problem, but he never seemed really severely hurt or anything like that. So Hrgovic in the Whiskers department is pretty good. Subriel Matias, Liam Perro being finalised for June 15th. Subriel Matias, I do enjoy watching. I always enjoy watching Subriel Matias, so I'm happy to see that. That's going to be an interesting fight. Liam Perro it's not a gimme fight under no stretch of the imagination for Subriel Matias. That's a really, really tricky fight, or could be potentially a really, really tricky fight for Subriel Matias. What else is there? Tyson Fury training for May 18th. 9 weeks until Usyk gets effing battered. Okay, well, let's see if he does. Both guys released images of themselves training. Let's see. It's gonna be interesting to see. Tyson Fury looks in good shape, but here's the thing: you can look in very, very good shape, but if it's what I believe is the case with Tyson Fury, that physically his body is just not what it used to be in terms of what he could do in camp, in terms of what he could do in the ring, then you could look in the best shape you can. It ain't gonna matter. People love to bring up Muhammad Ali when he fought Larry Holmes. It was 217, and he hadn't weighed that in a long time. Looked in great shape. How did he look in the fight? It's a fight that I've never watched, because I don't want to watch Muhammad Ali versus Larry Holmes, because I absolutely love Muhammad Ali. He's one of the men who got me into boxing. And to see him take a beating like that against Larry Holmes, I have seen little highlights here and there, little snippets, but I've never sat down and watched that fight, because I don't want to. I don't want to see Muhammad Ali take a hellacious beating for 10 rounds. But what I know is that he was in good shape. But did it matter? Hell to the no. It didn't matter. It didn't matter at all. Like Mike Tyson here, in very, very good shape and showing snippets of training for his fight with Jake Paul. And yeah, again, Mike Tyson is going to be pushing 60. Yeah, he's going to be 58 years old come fight night. Jake Paul is in his late 20s. And Mike Tyson's, and again, this could very well be sanctioned as a professional fight. So Mike Tyson has 6 losses. Douglas, Holyfield, Lewis, Williams, McBride, and Holyfield twice, actually. Yeah, 6 losses. So he could very well have a 7th, which, God almighty, I don't know. And it's in Texas. They don't. Yeah. Let's have an old look-see on boxing scene before we finish up here. What do we have? Keith Thurman, Tim Tszyu, winner may have a chance to face Terence Crawford. Yeah, I think I someone's share an interview, I should say, with Bomac, where he was kind of shutting down the rumours that Crawford's going to be fighting Eubank next. What else is there? There's not a great deal. Dillian Whyte ready for a return. That return's already happened. Moylet prepares for his last dance, unless the phone rings. Yeah, well, I didn't see Ray Moylet's fight, but I heard he got dropped and hurt pretty bad and scraped the decision. So, I mean, this isn't the first time he's gone life and death with Journeyman. I mean, I watched his last fight against Jamie Stewart, which was a draw. And yeah, it was a draw, but he was lucky not to get stopped in the last round. Ray Moylet is, basically a journeyman without the record. That's what Ray Moylet is. So waiting for the phone to ring. I don't know, you're going life and death with journeyman. I would say maybe best to sail off into the sunset. But hey, just my opinion. Oh, what? DAZN and chief executive Joe Markowski agreed to split? What? I don't remember seeing this. No, I don't remember seeing this. DAZN and its North American chief executive Joe Markowski have mutually agreed to part ways. Sources connected to boxing scene have confirmed. An official statement being prepared for Monday, a DAZN spokesman said. That's interesting. That's really interesting. Joe Markowski leaving DAZN. I'll have to keep an eye on that tomorrow and have a read of that, actually, because it's the first I heard of it. I didn't realise that, so it's interesting. Wonder why. Is he moving on to greener pastures? Is it are DAZN not I don't know. That's a really interesting one. I didn't know that, genuinely. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And I think we've kind of done well. We've kind of kept this in around the 20-minute mark. So I'll leave it there, people. I hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the like button if you could, subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. It's a bank holiday in Ireland tomorrow, so Monday I will be here most of the day, so I can get plenty of recording in, because obviously I would love to hit 17k this week. We are roughly, how many are we off? I think we're roughly about 70 or so subs away from 17k. So obviously 17k is but yes, exactly 70 subs off 17k. So it'd be lovely to see if we could do that maybe by the end of the week this week, which will be a big boost. But for now, I will leave it there. I hope you enjoyed it. Smash the like button if you could. I hope you all have a great week, and I hope, obviously, as I always say, the phone rings for good news for someone, myself included. And I will leave it there, people. Peace.